Hey, this is John Fernay, the co-host of the Maryland Crabs, and I am here today with a Maryland Crabcake for your listening pleasure. What's a crab cake? It's not quite a full episode, it's just a little snippet. Stay tuned and check it out. And make sure you check us out on themarylandcrabs.com. You can follow us on Twitter at MD Crabs Podcast or find us on Facebook at the Maryland Crabs Podcast. And don't forget, subscribe, rate us, iTunes. Go there now. Hey, we're back here off of Forest Drive, off of Cherry Grove Avenue again at Evolve Medical Clinics with Dr. Mike Freedman. How are you today?
I'm just lovely. Welcome back.
Yeah, last time we were talking about getting your head bashed in with concussions. And actually, you should go back and listen to that if you haven't heard about it. And if you've got certainly if you've got a kid playing sports, check that out. There was some good advice. And actually, if I recall, there was a great app that you recommended to test whether we need to take that a step further or whether get medical attention or not if somebody is suspected. But the big news now in the medical field, and probably I'm probably getting infected as we speak, but is the flu.
Yes.
And it is one of the worst years we've had in recent memory.
Yeah.
And the CDC had just released a report last week, I guess it was, that said that 84 children have died in the United States since October. Just some of the points of that were 3/4 of them did not have a vaccination, and 1 out of 13 visits to the doctor are for flu symptoms. And it looks to be coming into its peak season right now.
Yeah.
So from a local standpoint, we just wanted to find out, what is the flu?
So flu is a virus, influenza, and it's...
And by virus, you're not able to, there's no antibiotic.
There's no antibiotic. Antibiotics, by definition, defeat bacteria. Viruses are much smaller than bacteria, and they tend to be very resistant to whatever we've got. But we do have Tamiflu. Tamiflu will help shorten the course of the flu if you happen to get it.
Okay. And is that a prescription medicine or is that an over-the-counter?
Prescription.
Okay. Symptoms of flu are pretty much symptoms of almost a common cold, or can be anything, right?
Yeah, so, what distinguishes the flu is that it is a bad virus. I mean, so if on one end you might have a really mild cold where you're like sniffling and maybe sneezing and not even 100% sure you have something, and there's dozens of viruses on that end that can cause it. And then as you go up this chain in worsening virus severity, you get to the flu, which is near the top as far as how bad people get sick. And it does result in death. As you mentioned, there's been 84 kids so far this year. And if this year is like similar bad years, looking at probably 150 kids in total that will have died before this is all over.
And the other thing is that authorities are not required to report any adult deaths to the flu to any authorities. It's children, it's pediatric deaths.
Correct.
That is that. So there is, I don't want to say there's untold numbers, but I mean there's a significant number more of adults that have passed away because of this.
Yeah. In a given year, the estimate is around 34,000 adults that die from the flu.
34,000 a year?
Yes.
Wow.
And up to 50,000 in a year like this. And as many as 700,000 will be hospitalized before this flu season is all over with.
That's crazy. Those are crazy numbers.
And total number of people that get sick, up to 36 million of Americans will get sick.
Within this season, if you will.
Within the season, yeah.
And that could be colds or flus or bronchitis or whatever.
So they classify that usually as flu or flu-like illness, because you can get really sick close to the flu, but not quite have the flu. And there's para-influenza virus. There's other viruses that are very similar, but not quite as severe.
They haven't gone to the level of being diagnosed as a flu.
Correct.
What do we need to be looking out for?
So let me go back to that. So the difference between the flu and more of the common cold or sinus infections or some of the other things that we see a lot of is, in my mind, it's the sudden severity. So one day you're fine, Tuesday you're perfectly fine, and then Wednesday you feel like you got hit by a truck. You're achy all over, fever usually over 101, shaking chills, loss of appetite, severe headache, dry cough as opposed to bringing up a whole bunch of junk.
Okay.
It is not associated with diarrhea. There's the stomach flu, which is a different animal.
Right. Okay. So vomiting and diarrhea would be a stomach flu.
Right.
But I'd imagine that vomiting and stuff could come with regular flu as well.
You can get it, but usually if you've got, you could get some nausea, but if you've got a lot of vomiting and diarrhea, then it's probably more of a stomach flu, which is norovirus or rotavirus, and those are the things that sweep through cruise ships and stuff like that.
Right.
They're not lovely either, but they usually only last 24 to 48 hours. So it's a little, I don't know. Neither one of them are great to have.
Yeah, pick your poison.
Yeah, not volunteering for
death by burning or death by fire or drowning. Yeah. Okay, how long does the flu last?
Flu. So flu lasts for up to 7 days. The Tamiflu is a 5-day course of twice a day, and it will shorten the course, but you have to start within 48 hours of getting sick. So if you wait longer than that, it's really questionable how effective it's going to be. If
you're feeling the symptoms, the best bet is to go see your doctor.
Yeah, get it checked out ASAP, and that's I think if the listeners take home one take-home point, that's it, is that if you have sudden onset of feeling like death, get checked out right away so that you can find out. If you do have the flu, then you can start the medicine.
How are you as a doctor and your staff here keeping flu-free?
Hazmat suits for the most part. No, I just got the little Ebola thing,
right.
The clear mask and the yellow hoods. The doctors and nurses that work here and anywhere really will tell you that the secret to not getting sick is hand washing and hand sterilization. And most of us, our hands are cracked and bleeding now that we're doing it so much. But if I touch a tabletop, if I shake your hand, if I walk in the room, I sterilize. And when I walk out, I sterilize. When I get back to my desk, I sterilize. And it's just constantly, any kind of virus that you might have picked up, you're getting it off your hands. And even though you're doing all that, still don't touch your face.
Okay.
Because that's how you bring the virus into your body, is you touch something or someone, and then you touch your eye or your mouth or your nose.
Is it transmittable by breathing and being near somebody?
Yes.
Okay.
So, and if they sneeze or they cough, a sneeze can propel mucus and respiratory junk, including the flu virus, at about 100 miles an hour at you. So it's not easy to dodge.
There's a cartoon waiting to be drawn there.
Yeah. It's like, the Matrix.
Yeah.
You have to be like Neo and dodging these.
Yeah. And as far as recurrences, I'm hearing stories, and I read it on Facebook, so therefore it has to be true.
Yeah, absolutely.
But these flus come into a family, and it's just works its way through mom, through dad, through kid 1, kid 2, kid 3. Hey, mom's got it again, and circulates. Is that a problem? Is that a...
Oh yeah. It's highly transmittable, and that's one of the things that makes it such a great virus. Is it's easy to pass on from one person to the next. So we actually recommend that if one person in the family has the flu, you treat everyone
with the Tamiflu.
With the Tamiflu, it's a different dose. It's once a day as opposed to twice a day, and it lasts. You take it for 10 days instead of 5.
Okay, and that's more of a preventative type of a dosage on that. Does that explain these people that say that? And again, it's anecdotally, I'm down with the flu for 2 weeks, perhaps.
It drags on. It drags on. So, there's the initial infection, and then there's inflammation. So when the flu gets into your body, it not only causes the infection of the flu virus, what it's doing, but it causes a lot of inflammation in your body too. As a matter of fact, it's felt that the inflammation part is probably what really gets people sick and can cause a lot of the death that we see from it. I would say that as far as it lasting that long, I think it's mostly the inflammation part. The infection's done, but some of that is wearing off.
Okay.
And some of it's too that, you get dehydrated and run down, and, a lot of us aren't used to, some of us, we may be lazy and not exercise like we should, but we're still not used to laying in bed for 3 or 4 days straight.
3 or 4 days. That's true. And it's all contracted by breathing in, or I want to say mucous membrane brains or whatever.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like you had mentioned the eyes. So
Yes.
spit in your sneezing or coughing or whatever it may be.
Yeah, it's got, it won't go across the skin barrier. So, if you had your face covered, you'd be pretty immune to it, assuming you didn't, get it on your hands and then put your hands underneath your mask.
Okay, like the crazy Japanese tourists with the masks. Will that work?
Absolutely.
Okay.
The Michael Jackson one glove, you can put that on too.
That's true. What are your thoughts on? And I fight with my girlfriend on this all the time on the vaccinating. There's a new word on the vaccine.
On the vaccinating. So the vaccination this year was looking fairly abysmal, relatively speaking.
In what terms?
As far as efficacy.
Okay.
So first of all, I'll dispel a myth. It's not a live vaccine. It's just pieces of old dead virus.
Okay.
So it's simply impossible to get the flu from the flu shot.
Okay.
But it does cause your body to build immunity against what we're introducing into your body. And in the process, there's some of that inflammation occurs at a much lower level, but you get some of the inflammation just as if you had the viral infection. And that's why you might feel sick for a day or two. Some people feel achy and yucky for a day or two.
Okay. Effective? Is it?
So this year, the initial reports were pretty bad. And everyone was very concerned about how it wasn't very effective. But Friday's report from the CDC, as you mentioned at the beginning of the show, 3 out of 4 kids that died of the flu this year, of those 84 children, had not gotten the vaccine. So we are seeing that it may not keep you from getting the flu, but it will lessen how bad the flu is, and it will lessen the chances that you'll die from the flu. Or as the Health and Human Secretary, he had a good point, or she, he said that the flu vaccine this year, if you got the vaccine, you're 36% less likely to have to go see a doctor or be hospitalized. And if you're under 4, you're 59% less likely to die from it.
Okay. And,
so, I mean, those are good odds.
Those are some numbers. Those are some good numbers. I mean, I have never had a flu vaccine.
Yeah.
And
look at you.
Yeah, I know. I'm a walking mess. But and my daughters have.
Yeah.
And neither of us, or any of us have had what we are considering the flu. I mean, we've had some colds periodically, and like you say, it might be the stomach thing or the bronchitis or something like that comes through. And apparently, so it seems like it can't hurt.
Yeah.
By any means.
Yeah, I mean,
except for that one day that you might feel a little bit off after you take it.
Right. The best way to think of the flu virus, the flu vaccine rather, is you may have never been in a head-on collision, but that doesn't mean you don't want to wear your seatbelt.
Okay.
And the seatbelt is not going to save your life every time. As a matter of fact, the seatbelt kills certain people.
Sure.
I don't know if you remember this in the 70s or 80s, whenever it became that seatbelts were illegally
My seatbelt was my mother's right forearm.
Yeah, exactly. That was always great.
Slam them back into the back of the seat as the foot goes on the brake.
Right. Where was I going? You can cause a terrible flashback there. But before seatbelts were mandated, or when they were getting mandated, people used to always say that, they'd hear stories about someone that got thrown free of a car that was rolling over. And so they didn't want to wear their seatbelt because they'd heard those stories.
Right.
So, likewise, my sense is with flu vaccine, a lot of people don't want to get the flu vaccine because, every now and then there are a complication. It's, 1 in a million versus the number of people that it's saving.
Now, the production of the flu vaccine has been a question in years past. I know whether there was not enough to vaccinate the people that need it or the people that want it, whether the vaccine was, I think it has a shelf life, did I read?
Yeah, definitely has a shelf life. And one of the difficult things about making the vaccine is it does take a little bit of time. You can't just ramp it up at the beginning of the season.
So you are working this in your basement at home right now for the 2020 season, right?
I'm making well, Little Wayne's got me making a lot of purple drink.
Okay.
To cover the cough problem. But no, so they match the previous season's flu vaccine. The flu vaccine matches the previous year's flu virus mix. So, unfortunately, we can't immunize people against the coming year virus because we don't know what the coming year virus is going to be like. And
so the vaccine that we're receiving this year is based on early reports of what this year's flu season?
Not even last year's.
Okay. So then this year has now added some other bug into this thing that we don't know about.
Yeah. So,
but now we do, and we're going to work on that for 19 or 18.
Yeah. So each year the flu virus has different squares or diamonds or triangles, a different array, almost like a key on the outside. Not quite that many combinations, but different shapes and forms that, for lack of a better explanation, but that's what your body recognizes those and has antibodies that are preformed to match up with that if you've been vaccinated or if you've seen this before. From year to year, the flu tends to change slightly. It's called antigenic drift. So it drifts slowly a little bit each year. I think it's 20 to 40 years, they anticipate an antigenic shift. So the antigen, that these little squares and triangles, change dramatically every now and then. And when that happens, we get a flu bug that we don't have any immunity to, and you see massive deaths. So like in 1918, 1919, the Spanish influenza, that killed, I think, 50 million people across the world,
right?
But at least like a couple million here in the U.S. At a time when our population was, much smaller than it is now. I want to say it was about 50 million or something.
The analogy you made of the key, it just actually dawned on me. This is the second time an analogy has dawned on me in a podcast with somebody, but that you've got, it's like a lock, okay? It recognizes that it's a key. The flu is a key.
Yeah.
And it will go into the lock all the time, but it won't necessarily open all the houses.
Right, there you go.
But then every now and then you get the one where it opens it, and now that's the key to this year, but it's no good for next year.
Right.
Okay, I get that. Devastating flus. You mentioned 1918. Is that, and I've heard that it's cyclical. It tends to be. Obviously you can't predict it and say, okay, well, 2021 is the year we're going to kiss our...
No, we actually are way overdue. We're overdue by like 50 years.
And is that just a catch-up game or is that just a situation where the medical industry or the drug industry is keeping ahead of that?
No.
Just a little bit of luck?
It's just a lot of luck. It's like when the lottery goes up to 500 million. It's just that we just haven't drawn the right numbers yet. So it's when that does happen, I will tell you something is that I can't imagine what our society will look like if you have large numbers of people dying of the flu. And in that year, when that does happen, because it's just, it's going to happen, if you've had the flu vaccine, you will be less likely to die and less likely to be hospitalized, even though it won't match it perfectly.
Okay.
The vaccine won't match the new flu that comes out that year perfectly. Getting into, I don't want to sound like one of the Michigan Freedman or these people building shelters in their basement, but truthfully, you can imagine that if the hospitals will get overwhelmed very fast.
Well, that was sort of my question: is are we medically capable of handling some sort of a nationwide epidemic of something like that?
Absolutely not, and we never will be. Unless we come up with a better antiviral med. But the truth is that all they can do in the hospital for you is give you IV fluids, and if you have lung failure, respiratory failure, they can put you on a breathing machine.
Right.
But there's only so many breathing machines you can have sitting in a basement, at Anne Arundel Medical Center. And once they're all filled up, there's no more to get.
And then it's a priority is, do we look to put a 45-year-old...
Not even. It's first come, first serve.
Is it really?
Yeah, well, because, you're going to... If someone's in respiratory failure, you're going to put them on...
Right.
And so say they have... Let's just guess they have 45. Once those 45 are used up, you're not going to pull someone off of, and just throw them on the ground to die because you got a 10-year-old that came in.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that's the right thing to do. I don't know. It's real getting into some great ethical areas.
Guess we have to see how that plays out if we ever get to it.
Yeah, it's really frightening. So, but you can imagine that the one way to prevent it from getting to you and your family will be to never leave your house, which means that policemen aren't going to leave their houses, and truckers aren't going to be delivering food to the grocery stores, and who knows? I mean, there's a lot of people that really feel that it could have like a societal breakdown.
Wow. That's something I wouldn't want to think about, Bill. Who is the most susceptible here? In our general population here in Annapolis or beyond, that's obviously children.
Yeah, so in normal years, the people that are most likely to die from the flu or be hospitalized are people 65 and older. The second most likely are 4 and under, so 0 to 4. This year, it's very odd. Oops, terribly sorry. This year, it's very odd, but people age 50 to 65. I know, right? I wasn't happy to hear this either. People age 50 to 65 are the second most likely people to die.
So it's getting younger.
Yeah, so this year, for whatever reason, 65 and older is still most likely to die from it, but now 50 to 65 is the second most likely.
And that's just another one of those little mutations of last year's flu that's now manifesting that's affecting younger people.
That's somehow affecting younger people differently, yeah.
How has your practice been as far as flu?
We've been very busy, because of that. It's I've been practicing since '97, and but yeah, no, it's been really amazing how many people are sick, and just one after another testing positive for flu, and people are really, really sick and feel awful.
Aside from Tamiflu, there's not much that you can do. Now, I saw a picture, and I don't know whether it's legitimate or not, but it was supposedly in a doctor's office that said, if you've got these flu-like symptoms, we would prefer that you call us in, and we'll call a prescription in or something like that, rather than having you come into our office.
True story.
Okay. Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
I know hospitals are turning away visitors that, little Timmy comes around and he's sniffing, got some snot on his nose and hacks. He's out in the parking lot, kid.
Yeah.
Your business is booming, unfortunately.
Yeah.
We've still got a couple more weeks anyhow until it probably hits the peak season.
Well, so that's...
And I guess we can't really even predict that.
So the experts are saying, and that was again in this latest CDC report on Friday, is that it does look like we're peaking out, that we're hitting a plateau. And the ERs, here in Maryland, we're at about 8% of all visits are flu.
80?
8.
Oh, 8. Okay.
Yeah, which when you think about people that cut their hand with a bagel, and all the you break a bone, all the reasons you can go in the ER, heart attack, stroke. We're up to 8%. Normally, it's around 2%, 3%. But it looks like we're plateauing.
Now, does a plateau is the flu tend to be a sort of like a bell curve now? Do we have the same? Are we halfway there and going down?
Yeah.
Or is it quick drop?
Unfortunately, it's not a quick drop. The average flu year is 10 to 20 weeks. That's how long it usually lasts. The experts are predicting that we will go through March and potentially into early April before we're done with this year's flu season.
Okay, so before early April. If you've got some rapid onset of coughing, aches, feel like you got hit by a train, fever, chills, get to see a doctor. Be very cautious if you're in that 50 to 65 range because that's coming up for this year.
Yeah, and for the people, those of us that are 50 to 65, we're not that far removed from 30s and 40s where you're feeling
invincible,
immortal.
damn it.
Yeah, so you haven't fully come to appreciate how short life is. So if you're 50 to 65, definitely get yourself checked out. Everyone should, because we're also seeing stories anecdotally, all these stories of people that are hospitalized and dying.
Right.
And they're not, it's not entirely restricted to under 4 and 50 and above.
Sure. Everybody's got their own medical makeup, I guess, of their own body and their own susceptibilities and their own immune systems. Tamiflu is only going to work within 48 hours, you said?
Correct.
Of diagnosis.
Correct.
Or, I guess, onset of symptoms.
With onset of symptoms, right, not diagnosis.
If you miss that 48-hour window, there is no treatment.
No.
So what do? We just treat the symptoms?
Yep, symptomatic
So
treatment.
Sucrets and whatever. Do they still make this?
Yeah, zinc lozenges for the common cold, for a regular cold.
Is that like Zircan or something like that?
Let's just say it's 13.3 milligrams of elemental zinc in a lozenge. It stays in your mouth. That slows or stops viral replication, which is mainly occurring in the back of your throat. It shortens the course of a viral illness by a day, and it lowers how bad it is. And that was actually 2 New England Journal articles like 10 or 12 years ago.
Okay.
Or longer now. So I like to recommend that. There's a lot of other like herbal and alternative treatments that people recommend, though the NIH maintains the Department of Alternative Medicine or something like that, and they look at all the studies that are out there, and so far there's just nothing that's overwhelming.
My go-to is like NyQuil and Dayquil.
Well,
honestly, it works for me.
And I think if you can sleep, if you can get, I think sleep and rest is super important. So if you're up coughing, 24 hours at a time,
that's going to beat the hell out of you.
Yeah, it ain't good for getting better. But fluids, push the fluids, keep your urine clear. Then you're just flushing this all out of your system and you're staying hydrated. That's critical. But just going back for a second to say to any listeners, if you have not gotten your flu vaccine yet, get it. A lot of people didn't get it because they're like, oh, it's 10 or 20%.
We're halfway there. We're
almost
stretch.
Through the whole thing. Yeah, but the CDC is making a really strong push to recommend that people get out there and still do it. In Arundel County, Frank Phillips just set up 2 clinics last week in response to the report. Yeah, the uptick
and the death. I know there were a couple deaths up in Glen Burnie and whatnot. And and I'm not absolutely sure. Are the clinics that she just set up, are those free vaccinations?
I don't know,
small cost?
but they often are.
Because I know that the city of Annapolis with emergency preparedness, as well as the county health department, in the late fall, I guess, do a drive-through flu thing at Navy Marine Corps Memorial Stadium. Yeah, and you just get in line, you roll down your window, they jab your arm and tell you to have a nice day, and off you go. Do that. I mean, there's plenty of opportunities to do it, and I think flu shots are fairly inexpensive, whether you get them at Giant or CVS.
Yeah, I mean, full boat retails $20 maybe, anywhere.
So it's like 3 mocha lattes or something like that at Starbucks there. Sudden onset of symptoms is the critical thing to watch out for. Yep. Ride it out at home. Keep washing your hands while you're at home, while you have these diseases. Avoid.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to come in contact with others, the more sterilized you keep yourself, the better. But keeping yourself away from others is really the critical thing, because people will jump on a plane to fly home, and they will, still go to school or
And if you have this, don't go to work. Yeah, don't go to school. Nobody's going to give you a hard time there. All right. Well, I think that gives us. Hopefully, we've only got a couple more weeks of this, but we might be in for a month or more. Yeah. And if you've got any of these things, get to your doctor. Sudden onset, scratchy throat, coughing, hacking, wheezing, and make sure you don't get the flu. Stay safe. And we're going to be coming back to Dr. Freedman at Evolve Medical Clinics every time we have a medical question here, which is good. And I do recommend, if you are looking for a primary care, come on over here. He handles my stuff, and I know Tim said he was going to look into it. It's a very different practice than anything anybody's probably used to. You come in, you see the doctor. You're not necessarily seeing this nurse that's going to hang out with you, and the doctor pokes his head in and says, "Okay, see you, bye." Which is one thing that I like. And I know when I had some issues with my knee, I mean, you spent the time talking about it and letting me know, what the issues were, as opposed to just moving me on to the next one. At Evolve, you can renew prescriptions online through their app. You can, if you need to pick up a prescription, stay out of their office. If you've got the flu, you can pick up a prescription out the back door with Tamiflu. They'll have somebody run out to your car and put it right in you. I always forget the name of this little center that you're in, but it's on Cherry Grove Avenue and Forest Drive.
Behind Capital One, CVS, Lido's, next to Seoul, Matsu Sushi.
Seoul. You like it?
Yeah, it's amazing. The food is so good.
Somebody told me they have breakfast there, and I have not eaten breakfast
there. The breakfast is to die for.
I just learned that the other day, and I was I need to look into that.
It is to die for.
Thank you very much for your expertise as well, and I'm sure we'll be talking again soon. But
always a pleasure.
Have Have a good week and stay healthy. Wash those hands.
Yeah. Thanks, John.
This has been the Maryland Crabs podcast with Tim Hamilton and John Fernay. Sure to follow them at all the regular places, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and online at themarylandcrabs.com. Take a moment to rate us on iTunes. Now, get the hell out of my kitchen. Seriously, go!
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.